Welcome to Conversations with Cox and Kielseth, and to be more specific, that is filmmaker Alex Cox and myself, film curator Pablo Kielseth. Alex will join us by phone from his home in Oregon, while I sneak away from my office to call him from one of the projection booths used by the International Film Series, which has been screening foreign and independent movies at CU Boulder since 1941. We will keep our chats to about 20 minutes as we discuss whatever movie-related topics grab our fancy. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, action.
I get all the news I need from the weather report. I get all the news I need from the weather report. The only living boy in Medford. Pablo.
Alejandro.
Aquí estoy.
You and I are merged, and Richard Mattson, who's I think grabbing a beer, and he'll be right back in a second.
Very sensible.
Do you have a beer in front of you, sir?
Yes, I do. I have a Modern Times Orderville beer. How about you?
I have my good old standard from a stout from Malpais.
Oh, Malpais. Yeah. Like Clint Eastwood's company, the Malpaso company.
I did not know about his
well, Malpais
company.
and Malpaso are different. He when he was going to play Misty for me, he started his own company, and somebody said that's a bad idea, and so or a bad step, and so he called the company Malpaso.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Whereas Malpais is the Badlands, isn't it?
It is, and Richard Mattson has just joined us now. He's sitting down.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Beautiful, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing great.
Where did we last see each other? It was in some exotic place.
I have a picture, actually. I think it's the first picture I have on my cell phone of you and I at the, what's the theater at Lincoln Center? The Walter Reed, I think it is, when we did a screening of Straight to Hell.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that must have been 2010 or 11.
That's like the beginning of this century.
So really quickly for people who are listening, I just want to introduce our special guest today, Richard Mattson. And, Richard, you're a film exhibitor. Distributor. I keep sometimes
You're the
mashing
exhibitor.
those.
You're a film exhibitor.
I'm an exhibitor, you're a distributor. And but I want to walk us through a little bit about your history as a film distributor, because we're going to be talking about film exhibition and distribution in this podcast. Sure. So what's your history with film exhibition in a nutshell, sort of?
Sure. Very, very quickly. I started at a tiny company called Palisades Pictures in New York in 1998, and we distributed Adrian Brody's first few starring roles, Tim Benny in Restaurant, and a Philip Seymour Hoffman movie. And then I went off into the world of online distribution in its nascent days, meaning 2001, when it still took 12 hours to download a movie on the internet. And that was a miserable experience. But we were the third largest online distributor in the world, but that meant third largest of nothing.
Right.
And so then a couple years later, I started my company, Mattson Films, and we've been doing that for the last 17 years now. And distribution, for those who don't have a grasp of it, it means two things, actually. In the core Hollywood sense, at a studio, the distributor would be specifically the person or the group of people that put the movies in the theaters. So we were distributing the movies to the theaters. But more commonly these days, distributor means all of those companies that distribute the movie to all platforms, being theaters, home video, streaming, all of that. And so it's the role of forging those relationships to make your product, your films available to the theaters and the other platforms. But then the larger role is really marketing and figuring out how to grasp an audience and get them excited about the pictures. I tend to think that the onus of the marketing is more on me and more on the distributors in general, and that anything that an exhibitor is able to add in that audience they've built over the years, that database of not nonprofit donors or just people on their mailing list, et cetera, whatever that is gravy. But I don't think of that as the theater's responsibility. I think of that as ours.
Right.
So that's essentially us.
Well, thank you. And then I want to rope in Alex, because Alex is a filmmaker. You've had decades of working with different exhibitors, such as myself, and distributors, such as Richard. What has your experience been, as a filmmaker with the way that films are distributed and exhibited?
Oh, every experience is different, isn't it? I mean, sometimes you think it's great, and sometimes you think it's terrible. But some distributors have a lot more clout than others, and at one point it was quite difficult to book theaters if you were a very new company starting out. You'd tend to get elbowed aside by Sam Goldwyn or by one of the other bigger independent distributors, and I don't know how true that still is. Everything's changed, hasn't it? I mean, everything is in a huge flux at the moment with the theaters being closed. And something I thought was very interesting was the conversation that you and Richard had, I hear, over a game of virtual poker on Friday.
And I need to jump in real quick and let Richard know that there's only one spot left open for our Friday games this Friday. So if you want in, you better jump in on that, Richard. But yes, while Richard and I were playing virtual poker with some other friends, he basically said something along the lines of, well, you go ahead. What do you remember what you said, Richard, to me? Go ahead. Those were fighting words is all I'm going to say. Go ahead.
I mean, something along the lines probably of things are over. When I'm losing that badly at poker, I'll say just about anything. But
you only lost $80. It's not that bad.
$80?
I lost $80 too, so we were neck and neck and losing that
That's
night.
$155, guys.
I know Alex is thinking about how he can make a movie with our poker losings already.
Well, I should also for your listeners put in context that Alex and I briefly worked together. There a good 10 years ago or so, on the re-release of some of his titles.
Yeah, straight down. Highway Patrolman. One of my favorites. Yeah.
Oh. You're too kind.
But well, and if you look at even that time that we were working together, I mean, Alex is exactly right that the company I was with was a very small one at the time, and there's a whole history of Hollywood, and there's a history of independent cinema in America, back to the 70s and beyond. But as a movement, it really took flight there in the early 90s. But there is a hierarchy. There's all these little minutia, old Hollywood tropes to movie distributions. I'll throw out just a couple. That there's this concept of clearances. So if you were going to play the AMC theater in Kansas City, then you would not be able to play the Regal Theater in Kansas City. And you certainly would not be able to play the Landmark Theater, et cetera. There's this concept of there was only so much audience for a certain territory. So that's one. And that goes back to the early days of competing Nickelodeons and all that. But it's carried through to today. And there's a pecking order to how people move through those clearances and move through those different companies that are doing things. And there is to their credit, and to Alex's point, a smaller company doesn't have a track record of supporting movies. And so bringing an audience to a theater, and so theaters inherently can trust them less that that's going to happen. There's all these little factors and nuances to it. But when you talk about today and these crazy, awful times, I mean, it I think is a huge blow. And what NPR tends to focus on, or the New York Times, when they're looking at this issue, is just pure theaters being closed, that the pandemic has happened and the theaters can't open. And the move towards the streaming platforms for an audience that hadn't completely bought in to those before. And that, yes, is a huge, huge issue. And I mean, you've got to have, forget the little independent theaters that have one theater that has to be closed for a year with no revenue, and they're paying their lease or their rent or whatever it is. But even the big guys, even the Regal Cinema is closed down in all of North America right now.
Well, even more so the big guys, because they're predicting that 75% of those might end up in bankruptcy, right? By the end of within a year. Is that right? I've always had a fixation with volleyball. When I was young, I used to love playing volleyball. And when I moved to New York, I asked somebody, why can't you play volleyball anywhere here? And they said, think about it. This is the most expensive real estate in the world, and you've got a big empty room with nothing in it. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And that's true of cinemas nationwide. When you've got expensive real estate that's not making
except but don't forget the pandemic has changed that premise also, because now office space in major cities has emptied out.
True.
And I think you would be struggling to find unless it's going to be an Amazon fulfillment center or something. Someone's going to move into a downtown cinema and repurpose it for commercial purposes. At the moment. I agree.
But Alex, you actually sent me an email that I found very heartening.
Well, yeah, because what I thought, but I mean, I think that Richard's right, and I think that the not just the article that we're talking about, or these prognostications aren't wrong. That the studios may try and get out of theatrical. They may find theatrical is just like a loss leader anyway. Why bother with it? And the big chains may go bust. But for the independents, this is like a golden opportunity, because it's like vinyl. This is the vinyl moment, when the big record companies decided that vinyl was dead and it was all going to be CD, and then it was all going to be streaming, and only they were wrong. And I think that what it points towards is entities like the IFS and the Loft and the Texas Theater becoming the paragon for a while. And then cinema opens up again, and some of those empty spaces get repurposed as cinemas, but they become independent cinemas rather than studio controlled. And they show foreign films again, and they show, movies in the public domain and independent pictures.
We're here. We're going to be here to be. When I say we, like the International Film Series here at CU Boulder, where we have access to a 400-seat auditorium with 2 upright changeover projectors, and we have our own collection of archive 35 millimeter prints, 16 millimeter prints, and we hope to still have access to, once the vaccine is out and hopefully we can all go back to joining together in social situations, we will hopefully still have access to the other archives that are out there. I mean, that to me, that's my question in a way, is will we have, I mean, I can still put on a show with just our archive prints and showing classic and repertory and whatever small indie companies still bring to me. But I'm curious whether the folks who oversee the archives at other studios, will they still be in place to give us access to their collections?
Well, you've already lost Disney and Fox, right?
I think we lost Disney a long time ago, just for other reasons. But
don't they own Fox, and haven't they applied the same restrictions to their library?
Well, they've absorbed a lot of things, but the thing is that my unique situation, because I'm on a university campus, means that I might still have access to some titles. As of last I checked into it, like I can still show, the last 35 millimeter print that I showed was Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Great.
Which was absorbed into the Disney, collection. So,
well,
interesting.
Just a quick thought there, because we're also talking about a large spectrum of movie exhibition, right? What Pablo and IFS do is vastly different from what A&C is doing.
Sure.
And when you're talking about foreign film and repertory film, someone will be there to give you movies, because the people who have restored those films or have converted them to DCP over the last 10 years have to monetize them. They invested too much money in doing that. So there's that. There might just be one person to give you that movie, but there'll be that. And the other advantage that an institution like you just called it out, Pablo, is you're part of a larger institution, as is MoMA's film program, or LACMA's, or Lincoln Center's, etc.
Yeah,
and that makes things a little different. You're part of a larger mission, and I also have different levels of financial support. I think on the other side of the equation of new releases of new films and the whole ecosystem of where theatrical exhibition lies in the promotion of movies, of making people aware that movies exist and that these are the movies that need to be paid attention to, that whole paradigm is going to change. It just has to change now, because there's too many elements in place. It's not just the theaters that are closed now and that are suffering. Everyone I know in Los Angeles is out of a job, and these aren't assistants at distribution companies. These are executives, because they don't have anything to do. They've decided.
No, you're right. We're all out of a job. I'm out of a job.
And so you've got all of the people that have an institutional knowledge of what drives audiences and the relationships to make the connections between audience and exhibition and all that. Will that survive? Not in the same way. And the harder concept to grasp a little bit is, what does being in the theater mean? And you think about that as prestige. Yes, but it's a real prestige, or it has been, because it has been a lever that has enacted certain different things. If you open a theater in New York for the last 30, 40 years, the New York Times reviews you. The New York Times then gets syndicated by 50 other publications across the country. Little things like that. Or you're on the marquee in a heavily trafficked area of a Regal or an independent theater. It's all these things that are shaping how you as an audience member find movies and find the ones that you want to watch, as opposed to algorithm. And it's a vastly different thing. And so I'll give you one quick example. I get the New York Times every day, and on Friday, the reviews come out. I read those reviews today in a pandemic world in a completely different way than I did a year ago. It's now just a big swath of short, blurby things. And I don't know what's what. Everything's only streaming. And I think that's a little microcosm of what I'm talking about. Is it's fine that this is happening, but a whole new paradigm of how people discover movies is going to happen. And it's still up in the air. What
it
role
gives
is any
the exhibitor, it gives
that?
Pablo and the other exhibitors even more power.
Well, it's I'm unique. Go ahead, Alex. You were going to say something else, I think.
No, I was just going to say, and I think that's great.
Well, no. There's a few things to be cut apart here because I'm in a unique position where, yeah, I can still put on a show in a big hall with a big screen for a collective experience so people can, as social beings, because that's what humans are, they can come in and they can actually experience something socially with other folks and actually get a charge out of each other as they would in a music hall. Because, well, but I mean, if you're in a band, you want to be there and electrify an audience so that, that it's the word of mouth that is really I think one of the most powerful things that you can have and wield. And what's lacking from the algorithms and from just seeing stuff when Disney owns everything and Disney owns all the platforms and you're all just watching something from your computer, is that you don't have that electricity. You're not actually truly connecting with a bunch of other people. Alex, Repo Man was basically, it was a theater. What was it, Bleecker Street, or where was it? What was the theater?
It played at Bleecker Street. It played at Bleecker Street for like a year and a half or something like that. And because Iggy Pop lived around the corner, and he would report that it was still on.
Well, that's
no, you're right. The theatrical experience. Once Upon a Time in the West played in Paris for like 3 years non-stop. I mean, it's like the theatrical experience is very important, but it's going to become, I think, a boutique thing for a while, and then bounce back and become like the new vinyl.
That's where we are. I think you're right, Alex. I think it will be boutique because it is going to be sustained by those who can sustain it as long as they can. And then because humans are social animals, they will come back. And they might even come back with a passion for it. But the question is whether the current economic stasis that we have in a capitalistic society where, theater chains have been already on a very marginal, like their profits, like most of their profits come from concessions and selling garbage food and garbage sugar water. And they've actually undermined the theatrical experience by also putting in tons of advertisements into their, before the movie experience, and then adding 18 minutes of trailers before the movie, which is just insulting the audience. I mean, time is money. Why are you doing that to the audience that loves a movie, And so one of the things that we do at the International Film Series, we show a movie right on time, and we show trailers before the start time of the movie. We don't show commercials ever. We don't sell concessions because we have the freedom to do so.
If only the university served beer to the students, it would be perfect.
That is the one thing where Alex and I agree that there should be concessions, is that we should be able to. I will never forget going to Amsterdam and going to the giant theater there. That is the first place where I had a frosted beer mug presented to me before I went into the movie theater. And I was like, this is, because when you drink
as close to paradise as you will ever get.
It is. And the thing is that you're not disturbing anyone else when you're drinking a beer. I mean, when you're chewing popcorn, it's loud, it's obnoxious. When you're slurping through a straw for some sugar water, that's obnoxious too. But if you're just drinking a beer,
beer is a health drink. Beer, they used to give beer to babies, it's
yeah. Or, I'm actually fine with, I like gummy bears too, because those were introduced to me in Germany when I went to the art house calendar theaters in Germany. But, so I just want to say very quickly that I just reviewed, because I'm a freelance writer for the Turner Classic Movie Network, and they just had me write a piece for the definitive story of the movie Palace. And I can't help but feel that we are seeing some waves of change that do alter the landscape radically. And I would have loved to have been a cinephile between World War I and World War II when these movie palaces were just being built up everywhere. And we're talking. You
could have been a surrealist. You could have been a surrealist artist in Paris at the Residencia between World War I and World War II. Damn it!
Yeah, But no, so we're dealing with a changing landscape. But I just want to quickly say that I do think that how we watch things, as well as what we watch, whether it's celluloid or zeros and ones, those things matter because they're different. They're just different. And so part of the reason for even having this podcast is just so that we can remind people about the fact that there are choices to be made when you go to watch a movie. What is the best way to watch a movie? And right now, you might not be able to go to a movie theater, but hopefully within a few months, you can go back to the movie theater and you can support the movie theaters, because I think that's important.
Yay! And in the meantime, you can support the movie theater by streaming things when the distributor splits half the revenue with the movie theater.
That's correct. We're being given a nice option in that regard.
Good Lord, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm getting a text from somebody because my dog has escaped.
Oh,
I have to leave you.
Wait,
Alex, so wonderful to talk to you.
Nice talking to you too.
All right, we'll do it again soon. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Good time to say goodbye.
Great talking to you. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Good luck finding your dog. And then
good luck with the dog, man. I didn't realize.
Well, Alex, we're actually at we're past our 20 minutes anyways. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Richard finds his dog. And Alex, thanks for joining us on this.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and we'll speak more.
All right. Take care, Alex.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Ciao.
And cut. Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks again for joining Alex Cox and myself today. I'd like to thank Jason Phelps for handling the audio and Ted Thacker for letting us use the intro to his song, The Ballad of Slim Cessna, for the musical cues that bookend these conversations.